For this project, you're going to need a piece of red felt and a piece of white felt. Now I'm using a very stiff, almost starched feeling craft felt for this. And we're going to be cutting one pattern off of each side. I'll load the mat in. And then for this, I'm going to be selecting from the built-in designs. I'm going to be selecting this candy cane file that's in the different holidays. And I'm going to be sizing this up to about 5 inches high. And then I'm going to select part B and click OK. And I'm going to just pull that over here to where I know the red felt is. And then when I click add, it'll bring this back up, and we need the other part, part A. We're going to make a layered ornament with lots and lots of fun details. And then we're going to push this button, which is going to scan our mat so we can be sure that the material is where it needs to be. And as you can see, we have our pieces fairly well centered on here. Once we are good with the position, we're just going to click on cut and cut these out so that we can assemble them. Once your pieces are cut out, you can do whatever you like. What I am going to do is first to add stitching around the edges to secure everything. And as a part of that, and the way that I'm going to start and also end my stitching is I'm going to get everybody nice and even where I want it. And I'm just going to poke a hole through here. And I'm going to leave the tail of my threads here loose. I'm not going to tie them off. And the reason for that is I'm going to use the button, but I don't want to attach that button until the very end. So I'm just going to leave that there loose. And it can seem a little daunting, you know, what if I mess this up? Don't worry about that. You'll be just fine. I'm just going to do a simple in and out stitch, and I'm just going to hold that, pin that down with my fingers till I get everything through. And when you have longer thread, you know, it can just kind of tangle on you. So just take your time and be careful. Make sure that everything is coming through nicely. And if for some reason it's not, or if it's tangled, you just want to kind of loosen it with your fingers. Sometimes it just gets kind of tangled up, and it'll work itself out. You just need to give it a little chance, give it a moment there to sort itself. Sometimes it just takes a minute, and a little bit of patience really will go a long way. So once you have that all nice, you see how that's nice and firm, you're going to have to constantly, if you don't tape this down, you will just have to constantly adjust to make sure you have things the way that you want them. And then you're just going to pop back and forth, in and out. And as long as you don't pull super hard, and even if you do, once we get a couple of stitches, this is going to stay nice and firm for us. We don't have to worry about it. And the nice thing about this is, this way we get a really nice front and back, and there's no awkward, oh, well, here's where she started the stitching, look at how that looks. It's all just going to be really nicely stitched together. Once you get all the way around, so you see, by having the stitching as I did it, it means that the back is going to look nice as the front. Once I get all the way around, though, I'm going to put my button in through there, and then once everybody's in, just slide it on down. So once that is through, then I will be able to see what spot exactly it is that I want my other side to come through. And then once these are through, we just pull this and just make sure you get a nice knot there, and then double knot it so that it stays put. Oh, come on. There we go. So just make sure, it's a little tricky with all those threads because I used 3 strands of embroidery floss, so it's a little trickier versus a single thread. But once that's through, you can trim it off. And then another thing that you can do, and I'll trim this off fairly short here. Another thing that you can do is go in again. This time I'm going to go in from the back here. I'm just trying to match up the stitches just so it doesn't look funny there. And then I'm also going to go ahead and trim off this other side just so it doesn't get so tangled up in what I'm doing now. There we go. And then pull this through again. And if you're wondering, okay, well, what is she doing exactly? I'll show you. Then by pulling that through, and then I can trim my needle off here. We don't need the needle anymore. Then what I can do with the threads here is tie a little knot above, and then what this will create is our little hanger, so that whether this is a gift topper or an ornament to go right onto the tree, we have a little knot here so that there's a little loop, as you can see. And again, it's coming right through the button, so there's no ugliness on the back. There's nothing that's going to make it stand out in a negative way. You know, there's nothing going to be, oh, look, that's where, you know, she had to do that for stability or for security, you know, to get it to secure itself. So once you have yourself a nice little double knot, and just kind of pull on it to make sure it is secure and tight and not coming undone, you could be done. You could be all set. I mean, you might want to trim up, for example, right here, it's this one side is a little longer than the other, so we might want to trim that up a bit. But other than that, we can be done if we want to be done. Or something that I think would be really great as well is to use a needle and thread and stitch little beads and rhinestones and things into here if you wanted, or other little embellishments. You could also glue little embellishments into here, and I think that would be really, really cute. The tinier, the better. It's totally up to you if you want to leave it as is or dress it up even further. If I was going to dress it up further, I would just use really tiny things. For example, just shaking out a few here from some embellishments that I have. Tiny sequins would be great, little beads. And the question of glue versus stitching would really be personal preference. If you prefer to go faster, then obviously gluing everybody down in there would be faster, versus stitching will take a little bit more time. The other thing that will happen with stitching is that all of your stitches will show through on the back. So that would be something to decide if you wanted a third layer of the white pattern to then cover up those stitches. That would possibly be a good idea for you. It really is personal preference though. And it's a lot of fun to see how you can craft and create with different shapes and materials, especially at the holidays. I hope you've enjoyed my little tutorial here. I'm going to play around with some different ideas that I've got and decide stitching versus glue for myself. I wish you very happy holidays. If you have any crafting questions, please do always feel free to leave me a comment or shoot me an email.